We started the class with a look at the combined images from assignment number 3. Well, one thing you can see just looking at them is when you print, especially on non-glossy paper, the dark stuff gets really dark. Just bear that in mind when you're doing some. It seems like when you've got a little bit of highlights here, that sort of lets you know, okay, I can sort of adjust from there. But over here, that's just murky. And part of it's the way the image is put together. Part of it's the printing. This is just on like the medium, not so great, really color paper. And something that the photographer Ansel Adams said was he tries in every picture, even if it's mostly grays, to have some little of black and some little of pure white, just so you can sort of calibrate your eyes to that scene. I hope you had as much fun doing these as I did looking at them. They're really a trip. And I grouped them so that I'm so surprised most people did this one because of the 4 square windows. But I put the original image here in small, just for comparison. Shadows were interesting. Let's talk about them for a second when you're sort of adding shadows. This is a really nice shadow for that little girl. Except, the sunlight's coming in this way and her shadow is coming in this way. Just crank that around a little bit. This one too, I think. If its edge, the bottom edge sort of went off in that direction. That would feel more like it was all being lit from over here, like over here, but the sun's over there. So there's a little discrepancy in terms of the two images actually working together, but it's got a nice feel to it. This is fun. It's like his shadow. Moon is casting light on him and shadow onto the floor. It's not perfect, but it's sort of getting there. This was an interesting one where the original piece of furniture didn't match, really had to get warped and distorted to fit. And what you're really try to do there is, if you got your floorboards coming here and the edge of your carpet going there, you really want the edge of this bottom edge of the furniture to fit into that same perspective grid. You guys plotted perspectives, right? Yeah, same deal. Everything fits that same grid, goes to the same vanishing points. I think this works out great. So what I put on got the handouts here. Does it look real? And is it supposed to? There's a whole lot of illustration that is collage, and you're not trying to make it look like a photograph. You're trying to give an impression of what that's like. And stuff might get pasted in a little loosely. I think these are all trying for a realistic look, pretty much. I'm going to bring in Thursday or next week. There's a site that has what it calls the best architectural illustrations of the year for the last 5 or 6 years. And I'll print them out something like this, and all over the place. Some super photorealistic, some just sketchy, cool stuff, some collage, some cartoony. And I want you to bear those in mind and not think that just because Revit does the photorealistic stuff, that's sort of where we have to go. It was interesting to see what people chose to remove. I sometimes had sometimes just a pair of boots. Sometimes it was, here's this column, Jonathan just got rid of the whole column, hats off to people who did the cutting around the leaves. That's above and beyond the Call of Duty, but I appreciate it. So this all work. I think the addition of this light fixture, I'm getting rid of the plants and adding a light, that looks completely believable. That just worked out great. Proportions of figures is always interesting. I think the kid's a little too small. That's not an infant. And that's sort of where that perspective thing comes in. Maybe the guy is too big. I don't know just how you'd decide, but the little girl on the bed looks about right. She's up the same height, but she's farther away, so that starts making sense. If she were down here, she'd be a little munchkin. So I had this whole checklist of erased something, added something, put in a person. I don't know. They're all really fun. There is a color balance adjuster that can take everything from warm to cool, or like that, which might be a way to do it. I feel at this point the training wheels are off, and you guys are driving your own bicycle and making your own discoveries. I can't possibly teach all of Revit and all of Photoshop. Even if I knew them, I couldn't do it. And there is a slider in there under image adjustments where you can control the light, middle, and dark tones individually. So you could slide the lights all the way down, slide them down a lot, but leave the others kind of where they were. So there's a lot of playing around to do there. And today will be when we resize a wall cabinet or something, we'd go into edit type and duplicate and put in some new sizes. This is like, where do those numbers go? How do they actually affect the geometry? So we'll be making the link between the family and the dimensions that we use so that we can make our own things that adjust to different dimensions. Important for two reasons. So we can make our own, and so we know what we're doing when we're using other people's families. And also if something's going wrong with something that we've gotten from somebody, we can maybe try to fix it. So it'll be a great day. Okay, we're starting up Revit now, guys. Okay, a couple things I want to do in terms of looking at homework number 2, and I've graded all of those I've received. A couple are still out. Guys, it says in the student handbook and it says in the syllabus, I'm not responsible for calling you up to get your stuff in. You can tell if it's there on Blackboard. You can tell if it's there in your Cardbox folder. And if it's not, it's your problem. It's not my problem. Nice a guy as I am. I want to show you a couple of things about assignment number 2 that showed up a couple of times, and I realized I hadn't necessarily addressed them all the way through, and we'll look at it. I'm just going to start a new little drawing to illustrate. Okay. Okay, when you're putting in a ceiling grid, ceiling, we'll do the 2 by 4 foot one. With 2 by 4 foot ones, if you say I want an automatic ceiling just in this room, it'll put the long dimensions parallel to the longest side of the room. And what the automatic ceiling does is it equalizes the grid so that this distance is the same as this distance. It makes this distance the same as this distance and this one the same as this one. And sometimes with the way that your light fixtures want to go in, let's just say component, place component, load family, lighting, architectural, interior. Let's just do this linear box one. Open. That's the wrong size. I want that to be a 2 by 4 foot fixture. Sometimes with that automatic one, let's say I want to have, I don't know, some number here. Kind of drag this down to there. And I just wanted the 2 of them that far apart and centered in the room. And if I want them centered, I have to put one here, put one here. I don't want either of that. But we can move the grid once it's there. And the point is, we can simply select and move the grids to be where we want. And you can keep picking that same one and kick it over that way to get them centered. If that's where the equipment was, or storage along the wall or something or other. So you can adjust lighting. Closet wall, that the closet got smaller. It was the one behind the secretary's desk. Sort of came up like, it went like this. And there was a door in here. Basically, this part moved down like a foot, let's say, by the time we were done with it. We don't just move it. And I think the cleanest thing to do here is basically what would happen if we were going to put the new wall across right here, is this wall and this wall would get cut right there. And so we actually just do that. We select it, go to split element. It's a little X-Acto knife, very clear. Split it here, split it here. And let's pretend those are the same. And then these guys are the ones that we can demo. In whichever phase that happens to be, so that the new wall then, would just go in location, finish face, exterior. Then the new wall might just go in like that. And you see how that jumped around a little bit? one other thing we need to do is to be able to make the ends of walls not to heal themselves at corners, which is what they usually want to do. And the cleanest way to do that is to select this, and you get the two ends of that line that was drawn. I'm going to right-click this button that says Drag Wall End, and then say Disallow Join. So now this guy will not try to heal with anything else. I'm going to do the same thing for this one, Disallow Join. This comes up a lot in these demolition drawings. So I'll pick that. Disallow Join, right-click, Disallow Join. And then my new wall can come right in there. And so these guys aren't involved with that whole thing. And actually, since this is a new one, this is a new wall, different phase, I think actually I'd do the same thing. I'd disallow join there. So I'd see that joint, and wherever the disallow join. So in the new drawing, the proposed drawing, theoretically, these two would be double lines and this one would be filled in if the patching and all was working right. So that's how that should go. Get into my ceiling plan. I put two different fixtures in the existing offices. One was a regular downlight component, place component, load family, recessed can. And those are downlights that basically illuminate the room aiming down. And there's also the, somewhere in here, wall washer, okay. Recessed cans just aim straight down. These aim over at the wall to pick up artwork along the wall or scoops, and the little arrow to tell which direction that's aiming. I'll just rotate it and say from there to RO, from there to there, you know, how that wants to go. And they can aim off at an angle into a corner. They can have two of them aiming on the same piece of sculpture or something or other. So I know they look about the same, but in these drawings, lines have meaning is what this boils down to. And this little line has a meaning, and that's a different object from that guy. So I had those sort of around the perimeters so they could light up your diplomas or whatever people had, and then these in the middle of the room for illumination. I think the one thing that messed people up most was down here, this phase filter called Show All. It wants to show existing, demolition, new, whatever, as much as it possibly can. And that's rarely the case. We're really trying here to filter things. So we're either only seeing existing, or the existing plus the demolition, or the new. Or rarely is Show All appropriate. And all the final ones, the proposed floor plan and ceiling plan, would be Show Complete. Get rid of all the, don't show the demo. So those are the broadest things that I came across. Put my floor in here, just my little reference floor. So what I want to do is place a family here in the model, and then see how its family is made and how the family is set up to make the dimensions happen. And the one I want to start with is component, place component, load family. I forget, there's a carpet in here. Carpet right there. 1/2 inch thick, parameters for length and width, the simplest Revit family there is. And you notice we're putting it in using a corner point to locate it. And this one is editable. This one is individually editable. We don't have to edit a type. We can just this one guy itself. And so we can make that 6 feet by 10 feet, 6 feet by 8 feet, and it becomes 6 feet by 8 feet. So the question for today is, where do these numbers come from, and how are they applied to the family, and how do they get out to us at this level? And if you remember, when we did parametric materials, we wouldn't apply brick to something in the family editor. We would apply the idea of top material to a part of the family. And then out here, we would say top material equals brick. And we pick that from the materials browser. So So the parameter is really like a link between the family and the model. And it'll be the same way here with the dimensional parameters. So let's see what this looks like. In this individual object's own properties, we have how high it is off the floor. The rug's going to stay at 0. How long and how wide it is, and its phase. That's really all it's there. With edit type, we do get to choose a material using a material parameter. So that's all it's here. What we're going to do now is explore edit family. Here we are in the family editor, and here's this guy. We see we can stretch it different directions. When we get into the plan view, and they don't call it floor plan view because the reference level might actually be the wall that something is built out from, or the ceiling that it hangs down from. That's just the plane we're going to attach something to once it's in there. And what you'll see is we have the object itself, and we have to start with we started with these 2 reference planes, which are known as the center front and back reference plane and the center left right reference plane. It's a little hard to read there. And this point here is where those intersect, is where the cursor was when I located that carpet on the floor, bottom left corner. What we have here are 2 other reference planes. The reference planes themselves are infinite, although the dashed line segments we use to represent them do have the ends you can see. These 2 stay put. They're fixed. That's like 0, 0 in the AutoCAD world. And what these planes do is control how big the object is. I like to think of the reference planes as the bones of the family. When they move, the flesh, the 3D objects, come along with them. What moves the bones are the muscles, the dimensions, to which we will give named parameters. To show how that all works, I can double-click on this and change that to 9 feet. And that changes to 9 feet and then makes the thing 9 feet long. So the dimensions really drive everything. We'll pass information from the project to each of these parameters, which feed it to this dimension, which moves the reference plane, which makes the carpet get bigger. Okay, let's close that out. Now, that thing was set at a half an inch thick, not something we have control over it out here. That's a dimension that wasn't passed to us as a parameter. If we look at component, place component, load family, going to tables, there's this nice rectangular table, which isn't that different from ones we've made in class before. It's got this little skirt underneath to keep the legs from wobbling. And you'll see that the table has no editable dimensions as an individual table. That will all be happening in edit type, where a room full of desks, you want them all to update at the same time. And we have height, length, and width. And if we make the length be 5 feet and apply it, it shortens down. So let's take a look at that in edit family. Dimensions or annotation, you only see them in really in plan views and not in views that they weren't created in. This is the plane that goes from center back to front, and this is the plane that goes center left to right. Since this is a vertical plane, eventually it's something that we can draw on, get into an elevation view, and we can draw things in elevation. Anything you need to draw in elevation, you can do that way. So 2 things going on here. One, there's a length set as 5 feet. And then there's also another dimension string, which we can, when you create a dimension string, you can choose to click the equal button. And then those 2 dimensions from this reference plane to this reference plane will stay equal relative to this one. Well, let's just change this. Let's just change this to 4 feet. So coming in together, each one takes half of that value because they're equal. So length and width, and if we look at them, if I'd wanted that to be something to be individually available, I could have clicked instance parameter, and then each table in the model could have been independently lengthened. A question from the floor. How do you decide whether to set up a family with a type parameter that will resize many tables at a time, or an instance parameter that will allow each table to be sized individually. Well, let's say that we get 5-foot tables and graphic design gets 4-foot tables. I would say that because they just have little stuff. They don't have like big sheets. They just have little stuff. No, I would say student work table, 5 foot long. That's a type, and all of ours will update, and then they get student work table 4 foot long. It might be that if you had a carpeting in the aisle somewhere or other, and it was all 3 feet wide, but you want to be able to vary the length of the pieces, something like that. And anything that's truly unique might not have any variable parameters at all. The only reason for them is so you can have multiple nearly identical things that are somewhat different sizes. But if it's a truly custom built, I mean, and a bunch of other things in the Revit families, custom built, there's lab furniture and stuff that's just 18 by 6 by 3 inches high, and that's all you get. Okay, so let's look at the front view of this, front elevation. And sort of a question like, what views do I look at these in? I would suggest, just for clarity, of doing as many of them as you can in the plan view. It's really a pain to have some things dimensioned in the plan and some in the elevation and some in the right elevation and some from the back and some from the left. I pretty much use plan, front, and then left if I need it, or one of the side ones. But let's take a look. So elevation, front elevation. It's not south anymore. It's just front of this thing. And we can see here are the 2 planes that we saw. Let's somehow I got that. So as we're looking at this, is this view right here. So here is this plane. That's that guy over there. Here is this plane. That's that guy over there. They're infinite planes. And here's the center one. So the only thing we've added here is a height parameter. And as I drag this that reference plane up the, well, that's funny. I would say that's, oh, they've, okay. Well, this is not how I would have made this, because they're actually started using a separate plane there, a separate reference plane, instead of tying it into the ground plane, which I would say is wrong. We won't make that mistake when we're doing ours. But so really, these three controls, height, length, and width, control that whole thing. You notice that these guys don't. They travel with the big object right now. So just a look what's going on. Let's close this. Let's close this. No. I want to make something I can put on the floor that has some height to it. What's a lump that we can put on the floor? How about another cat climber? Well, they're my favorite thing because it's just this abstract shape and it doesn't matter. So let's do a cat climber. Okay, good. So let's go to File, New, Family. Right there on the process, step 1. We need to tell it what kind of family this is. And because will determine if you turn that category off, if you turn off all the furniture, do you want this to disappear or do you want it to stay? I would say a cat climber is definitely in the entourage category, just that stuff that candlesticks and books on the table and stuff. So we'll say entourage. Okay, so we're going to make a cat climber that's going to be, this will be so exciting, some sort of rectangle with a hole in it. We'll just see how this goes. But right now, I went in the family editor, pretty much always come into the plan view with the center front back plane, and then the plane here that's center right to left. So let's just go create an extrusion. And when we're placing this, we'll be placing it with its middle point rather than a corner. So I think the easiest way for me to do this is to draw a rectangle. And here we just approximate a size. We're not really worried about the final size, just sort of close, 2 by 3 feet, something like that. And let's say a depth, which is say a height of, let's say 18 inches. This is just for, okay, so there's that. And now to move it over there, we did this last semester. I'll go to move. I'll move from the midpoint here over to the center point. And then I'll move from the midpoint here down to there. And now I'm centered. So let's put the length and, well, what do we want to move? Look at the geometry, analyze it, and think about when you're changing a dimension, what parts of it do you want to move? It might have multiple edges, but for this is pretty easy. I think if we have a length, I want this edge and this edge to move. And the way I move them is with reference planes. So that's in create, not reference line, it's a different deal entirely, reference plane. I'll just start here, drag it up, pick it there, drag it down there. I'm going to make another one. I'll do a copy from here to here. And at this point, those lines don't really know yet. I mean, the edges of our box don't know yet that they need to be associated with that reference plane. What we need to do is tell them, tell the flesh, this is your ulna or your tibia or whatever. The way we do that is just by grabbing this, stretching it back, and clicking the lock icon. Lock that edge to that plane. That's the crucial step of all this. Over here, same thing. Drag it from where it was, drag it back, and lock it. So now, when I drag this, that'll stretch. Drag this, that'll stretch. To keep them equal, so that this will stay the center point, I'll put a dimension string on there, annotate, aligned, and I'm not dimensioning to the thing, I'm dimensioning to the bones. And I'm saying those aren't equal now, but I want them always to be equal. So they become that. And then to be able to control the length just in one number, instead of having to give it like a half length, I'll create another dimension from here to here, plane to plane, and put it up here. So now if I move this in, those will both move in because they're set to equal. And we can see that this is changing up at the top. The two original reference planes stay put by definition. To turn this into a parameter that will then get passed back to us in the project, select the dimension, and we're going to give this dimension a label, just the way that we gave the materials a label. Let's imagine we wanted 10 identical cat climbers. And if one changes, they all change. We'll start with type first. It's going to be a length dimension, and we're just going to call it length. Its name will be length. They'll say length equals 4'6". And when you pick a dimension, Revit already knows that it's length. We just say, OK. So with length equaling 4'6", I can go over here to the family types, which is sort of a little preview of edit type back in the project. We have added the length parameter. And if I change that to 6 feet, apply, then that'll become 6 feet. And what we have right here is exactly what will go back out to us in the project. Now, for some reason, it already said it had one called height. Don't know where that came from, but I think I can get rid of it here somewhere because I don't really want it. Well, oh, height. Well, we'll use it. We'll get into it. So length, let's call that width. We'll need 2 more reference planes. Create reference plane. Drag that over. Control copy from that corner to that corner. Tell the geometry is to associate itself with that and lock in there. Tell this to associate there and lock in there. And then put a dimension up here. And then and I'll make these equal as well. And then turn this into a parameter. The little orange star there means make something new here. And we'll call this width. Okay, same thing. So if I drag that out, it works that way. Last thing is height. Let's get into an elevation view. One more plane. Now we need a horizontal reference plane. Isn't this exciting? Reference plane. And we'll just do dimension that to there. Let's just see if it goes up. See, you have to lock them. Gotta lock them. Just drawing it doesn't make anything happen. And then we'll make this one a new parameter called height. So already defined. Here's what I can do. For some reason, that one already had one called height in there. But if I pick this, I can then go here and assign it to the one called height. So theoretically, you can make an empty template that had all these names of parameters already made, and then just associate the dimension with it. So let's just make sure that that works. That works. Constraints are not satisfied. Constraints are not satisfied. Welcome to making families. Cancel that. Something's not right about it. Where do I do that? Let's go over here. Oh, it's locked. It's coming in from somewhere. Oh, that was a brand new thing. That's locked. Okay, now we unlock it. Apply. Well, that was exciting. Now, good, okay. So we've now made our thing, our little object. We'll come back and do the hole to climb through later on. First, I want to save it. I can always do load into project and close and ask my one-off to save it, but I like just to sort of do that ahead of time. Save as family, and we'll just stick it here on my desktop with everything else. Cat timer 01. And now that it's saved on disk, I can load it into my project. Well, big fella, put that on the carpet. Now it's interesting, the bottom of that is sort of buried in the carpet. So knowing that that's a 1/2-inch carpet, I could do offset it from my host, which is the floor. Yeah, you could do that. Because this was made in the family editor, I don't have the shape handles here, but I do have in edit type, I do have my dimensions here. So that's my length. Let me take that down to, let's do this. Edit type, change the length to 4 feet. Apply, and it shrinks down to 4 feet. And I'll change the width, which is sort of the front back direction, to 1 foot. Okay. We control the horizontal and the vertical dimensions there. Two horizontal and a vertical. Now I'm going to put a square hole through this front to back. So let's just see how that happens. Back in the family editor, in the front elevation view, I'm going to create an extrusion, pick plane, tab, draw a rectangle. Okay. Since as drawn, the new shape projects from the face of the first one towards us, I'll drag its rear side back into the first one to be able to create the hole. I made that accidentally as a solid. I can, once it's made, I can change it to a void and then cut it out of the solid. A lot of tricks here. Front. I'm getting a little tired of doing this. I could, if I wanted to control the size of that, create 2 more reference planes here and put dimensional controls for them, like so I can make it 8 by 12 or whatever, but I'd like to move along. Time is passing. But when we say load into project and close, a couple of changes to remember. First of all, it's saying, do you want to save the changes to the file on disk, the RFA that you could mail to somebody and like that, say, yes, I want to change the one on disk. And then do you want to change the one that's here? We want to change this one to update. And I'll say, yes, update the existing version. And because we've created new parameters, I guess we didn't, but do that. And there that object is. And we can come in and edit type and make that 4 feet and make that diameter is no longer applicable and the width be 1 foot. What I'd like to do now is go back and create yet another simple table, length, width, and height. And the sort of the extra feature here will be that I don't want the legs to stay in the middle when the table gets huge, legs to stay 4 feet apart when the table is only 3 feet long. So we'll need parameters to control tabletop, height, width, and thickness, and then some way to control how the legs are inset from the edges of that. So let's go to File, New, Family, Furniture. And again, we're looking at the plan view. So let's create the top first. It's an extrusion. It's a rectangle. Some size like 4x2. We'll adjust this all later on. And we can then say we're done with that. And then move it to be centered on the axes. MV for move, midpoint to endpoint. And we'll make this, let's say, 1 inch thick instead of 1 foot thick. Now I'm going to create some legs. I'm going to create one and then mirror it a couple of times to get it equidistant from all the edges. Create extrusion, little rectangle. I'm making it 2x2. And I'll make that 2 feet high to start with. Actually, I'm going to do that a little bit differently. If I do this and then mirror it down and mirror it down, mirror it down, mirror it over, mirror it down, I'll have 4 individual legs that I'll need to adjust the heights of. But if I pick this and go to Edit Extrusion, I can make a single entity that has 4 parts to it. So I'll go back into Edit Extrusion, grab these, mirror them down, mirror these across. And now I have 4 legs that are part of one object. And when I change the height of that, all 4 legs will go up. So let's look at this in 3D. Turn off the unused views for clarity. And in my front elevation view, I'm going to just dissociate this from its work plane so we can just drag it up off of the ground plane that it was drawn on. And then move it, let's say from here to here. Okay, so there's the geometry we're dealing with. We're not dealing with the skirt right now. Take that back here. Let's do the control reference planes for the top. Create reference plane, vertical reference plane. Draw that, copy it from there to there. Draw 2 for the front and the back. And copy it down. We want to set it up so that this will be the point that we use to place this in the model. And we want things to be equidistant on both sides of that. So we'll set up the length first, create the dimension. Sorry, annotate. Aligned from here to here to here, and say that that's going to be equal. And then dimension from here to here so we can give an overall length. And then we'll do the same thing for the width. Now, if my tabletop gets very big and the legs stay where they are, the table's just going to tip over. If the table gets very small, the top gets very small, then the legs will no longer support the top. So I think I want to set like a 3-inch inset to control where the legs go. See if we can do that. I'm going to copy this line, this reference plane 3 inches in. Offset doesn't work with reference planes, which is too bad. And then I'm going to mirror it about this line to get another one over here. Select, mirror, copy. And then I'll do the same thing this way. Copy, 3 inches. Mirror it about the horizontal line. There. Now I'm going to move each of these legs individually, basically this corner to over there, but I can't measure them. Well, I guess I could do this. I want to move them as if I do it this way, I might end up with things that aren't exactly 2 inches. So I want to try to do that. I think I can go back to edit extrusion, pick that, move it from this corner to that intersection. Pick this and move it from this corner to this intersection. Move that from this corner to that intersection. Move that from here to here. Okay. Now this is sort of the first test to see how things work. If I move, and I want to set these distances all equal to 3, or I want to dimension all these little guys. Say it again. Thank you very much. That little EQ thing shows up in the weirdest places, usually not helpful ones. Thank you. Okay, so before I start assigning parameters or anything, the first question is to see if I just move these control planes, does everything behave the way I think it's going to? And if I move this one over to the right, this should move to the right. Both those two planes should move to the right. These should move to the right, and these should all move to the left because I've got equal, equal, equal going on. So we'll just see if this works. So I move that and I drag it out like that. These moved okay, but this perplexes me. And what I want to do with that is pick that 3-inch dimension and lock it. And pick this. So we'll lock these guys into the plane, staying that dimension away from the edge. And now if I pick it, okay, that's just what I wanted. Well, yeah. Oops. I've sort of exceeded the length of the lines that I drew, my control reference planes. They drag with that sort of that blue circle with the white insides. Well, I think that looks good. Where's my sort of lost my reference plane is down here somewhere underneath that line. I can't see it now, so I'm going to hover here and hit tab until I pick it, and then I can drag it. Again, we don't have to see the whole plane for it to still be active in the model. Okay, so that's working. So now I can assign the names to those dimensions to turn them into parameters that we can deal with back out in the model. So we'll do this, do create, and we'll say that's length. It'll be by type, do, okay. We'll pick this one, create, width, okay. We could also create one for offset. Let's do that. Let's pick this guy. and create one called leg offset. See if that works. And then I'll use that same parameter, that same link for the other three, so that they will all offset the same amount. Sorry, it's a little messy in here. Okay, let's do a little testing here. Let's set the length to 6 feet. Just do one thing at a time, see how that works. That looks good. Let's set it to 4 feet. Okay. Let me set my leg offset to 6 inches. Ah, they didn't go. So the legs, for reasons unknown to me, are not working the way I expected. I'm going to Control Z a bunch and try another approach. Okay, there. Let me go back to Edit Extrusion, and I am going to do this. Guess we have to. Locking each side that falls on a reference plane to that reference plane. So it's a little painstaking, but boy, it's so worth the effort once you're done. Very satisfying. Okay, try that. See if offsetting that to 6 works now. 6 inches. What do you think? But okay, so I guess the answer to that is be explicit. When you lock this edge and this edge, this whole little unit comes along. It's not like I have to set those to be 2 inches wide or something or other. So that looks like it's working. So now I haven't saved it yet. So the other way to do this is load into project and close. And if Revit realizes that you haven't saved it yet, I'll say yes. And I'll say table with leg inset. Save. And now that'll insert this into our project. And it comes in with the size that it most recently was in the family editor. We go to edit type, then we have those exact same things here. Set our legs back to 2 inches off, maybe. Oh, too many exclamation points. Kick those out. Change the length to 3 feet. Change the width to 2 feet. Okay, so it seems like that's working good. It doesn't always, and obviously didn't this time. Let's make sure. Oh, did we do a height? Do we even set that? Forgot the height. God, I can't do that. So we go back here, get into an elevation view, put up a reference plane. Pick this guy, go up, lock him. And the question will be, will the legs go up when that goes up? Ah. So it looks like, to me, as though the bottom of that is being held in place by the top of the legs. So let's just dimension this directly from here to there. Just leave that at an inch. And then, okay. And then we need to lock these guys, which is this line right here, to there, and they were locked in. They really didn't know each other existed previously, and now we have to make those. Okay, that looks good to me. It's a height adjustable table. You pay extra for this. So now we need to put that dimension and the parameter there, annotate dimension from there to there. We'll call that height. And all these parameters, as with the materials, are exclusive to this family.
There's no leakage of parameter values with the same name from one family to another.
Okay, so let's just check that. Height, 2 feet, 6 pi. Okay, looks good.
So since this time we edited a family that already exists on disk and in the project, we have a
slightly different dialogue on the way back to the project. I'm done here. We've done everything we need to do. We'll come back sometime later and do materials or something, but load into project and close. Do I want to save the changes to table with leg inset on disk? Yes. It's already there on the disk. Do you want to update that? Yes, because we now have the height added. Do you want to overwrite the version that's there with this new version? Yeah, pretty much do this because we have new parameters, and there it is with the new height. And edit type. And leg offset 4 inches. Apply. Okay. Length 5. Okay. And it's an interesting exercise. How small can we make this before the legs start to bump into each other? This is sort of called flexing it. Let's see, length. Let's just make length be a foot. Error occurred. Things are overlapping. Blah, blah, blah. Cancel. Make the length be 18 inches. 1 foot 8. Okay, we can do that. We just can't overlap things. Okay, anyway, so there's that. The next one is a little more interesting because it's got an angle in it that we need to lock down. So this is essentially the computer work table I have at home, and I sit facing that angled side for where the keyboard sits, and then have a screen in front of me and other stuff off to the sides. It works nicely. And the trick I found was how to adjust it, basically adjust the length of the 2 legs without having the length for the keyboard either get longer or stretch out to be some funny angle. So let's just see what's involved here. And I want to put it right into this corner. So, file, new, family. Again, furniture. We'll make like a 1-inch extrusion. I'll make it, let's just say 5 feet to start with that way. Maybe 6 feet just for variety this way. And I've got 30 inches deep each time, offset 30 inches, 30 inches. And if we do a circle right here that's like 1 foot 3, and then we can use trim TR. That will get these guys just about the right distance apart. 1 foot 9, close enough. So this is the basic geometry I want to have, and I would like to be able to stretch this down till it hits the windowsill and stretch this up or back until it hits something or other else. But that's all I want to change is like the length of leg 1 and the length of leg 2 and leave everything in here the same. So we'll say extrusion. And we'll put this up. I'm going to put this up in the air for right now. It's going to start at 29 inches, and end at 30 inches.
A good height for the chair I use.
That's so I don't have to move it up later on just to get it set where it's going to be. Okay. So when we look at that in 3D, here it is. And we can't really tell that it's up in the air until we want to do something like edit as extrusion. Then we see that the extrusion is actually flat down on the ground. And we've just moved this thing up into the air with our height things. Plan view. So again, I want to have a reference plane for the leg 1 and a reference plane for leg 2. Create reference plane. Drag that to there. Oh. Drag that to there and lock it. Can I lock it? I'm not being given the opportunity to lock it there. There we go. Okay. Well, this is behaving better than it did last night. So if I go back in there, oh, cool. So this is an easy one.
So far, anyhow.
Put up some dimensions. And we'll assign parameters to them. And then I would like to make a hole in this
For power and data cords.
And this time I don't need to use a void. I can just edit the boundary of this guy and put a circular hole in here, and it will become a void. Edit extrusion. Let me just sort of eyeball it. And I think create, annotate. I'll try this dimension again. Okay, so I think I have to create this as a parameter here in the edit boundary mode. Okay, see if it works. Yeah, okay, so that's working. So the whole diameter, I had to put the parameter on that in this edit boundary mode, get out of there, and I can go back and put these on just normally. Leg 1, let's call it a right leg. And this one, new left leg. Okay. And because this is sort of a unique thing that I might have one in one corner with legs of different lengths, I think I'll take both of these and make them instance parameters so we can change them individually. We don't have to have 9 of them the same length. Make this an instance parameter. I think that's all I need to do. Yes, we'll call it corner computer desk top. And hit the space bar and turn it around and put it right in place. Get into plan view and fix that. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So just need some milk crates. I think now I can pick this. Right, I have my right leg and left leg as editable dimensions. Let's say there's only 6 feet there. And just 5 feet over here coming down towards us. There it goes. But look at what happened here. See that? My angle messed up. Back to the family editor. I knew it wasn't going to be this easy. So I made that 6 feet. Making this one 6 feet and this one 5 feet for some reason. Yeah, why do they do these things? So I'm gonna undo that, and instead of letting that happen, I'm going to put another diagonal plane here and then lock this line to that. So let's go to create reference plane, pick it up from the good geometry. Now I'm going to pin this in place, which is I'm going to pick this and use the pin, which means this will not be able to move relative to our corner point. I'm going to pin that reference plane, and then pick this and come out and then lock my edge to that. I think this is what I did last night. Load into project and close, sure. Change on disk, yes. Overwrite the one, yes. Replace the one on disk. Replace that one. Okay, there we go. So now if I change these back to, like, let's say 8 feet and 4 feet. Okay, looks good. Let's do 5 feet and 9 feet. Okay, looks like we're up and running. There are a couple of books out on making Revit families, including saxophones, Corinthian columns, gargoyles. We're just not going there. But do give exercise 3 in the class outline a try. Make a 12-inch deep bookcase with parameters for width and height, just the way we've been doing. So we've got depth already 12 inches. And then give it 4 shelves that are 3/4 of an inch thick that are always equally spaced between the top and the bottom. And you can dimension them up, and then do equals, and then they'll adjust to that. And you might have to specifically set the thickness of them each to 3/4 of an inch so that the bottoms travel with the tops, something like that. That's enough for now. Well, thank you all, and see you on the bit stream.